So this starts with paying taxes. I hate paying taxes because they waste so much of the money. But if you go to Washington, over the front of the IRS building, it says the taxes are the price we pay for civilization. So I found myself in City Hall in Boston. I don't know why I went in to pay my taxes, but I was there to pay my taxes. And I paid my taxes, and I got in an elevator. And I got in the elevator, and there were 3 guys in the elevator. Right here, there's a suit with a clipboard. And right here, there's a guy, looks a little more rough cut. He's wearing one of those black and red wool check jackets that hunters used to wear. And over here, there's this kind of small guy with a windbreaker jacket and chinos on. So I turned around, which we all do in the elevator, and I thought about it for a minute, and I turned around again, and I said to the little guy, "Are you Cesar Chavez?" And he said, yes, I am. And I'm not talking about the maniac who was running Venezuela. I'm talking about the great labor leader, Cesar Chavez. If you don't know who he is, you really need to look it up and read about him. And he said, "Who are you?" And I said, "My name is Jan Presser." And he said, "Jan, I'm very glad to meet you." And it was genuine. And at that point, I could feel that he filled up this elevator, his presence. And I told him, "Mr. Chavez, I lived in California, and I'm aware of what you've done over the years, and in the history of the American labor movement, in the history of America, you will hold a very elevated position." He said, thank you very much. "Where did you live in California?" And I said, "Well, I lived in Sacramento." And he said, "Where?" And I said, 30th and I, 21st and E, 17th and G. Sacramento is really laid out on a great grid. And he said, "We have a lot of friends in those neighborhoods," because it was what you would call the barrio, 2 of those numbered addresses. And by now, the suit was looking really uncomfortable and was holding the door open on the elevator. And the man with him, who today we call a handler or an assistant, was saying, "Cesar, we have to go. Cesar, we have to go." And he turned to me and he said, "I've really enjoyed meeting you, but I have to go. I'm sorry." And I said, "I understand." And so they left, and I left the elevator also. And I went outside in City Hall Plaza here in Boston. There's that big outdoor plaza. And I felt dizzy. And I felt disconnected from everything around me. And I realized something really big had just happened for the first time, and that's why this is a first. That I'd been in the presence of true greatness, because this was a man who led demonstrations, into angry crowds where people were beating them and the police were truncheoning them, and yet people followed him. And a few years later, he died. And I remember reading 35,000 people attended his funeral. Now, I don't think all of us put together will have 35,000 people at our funerals, And I thought about this a lot over the years, and I realized something. This was the first time I've been in the presence of true greatness. And greatness, he had charisma, but greatness is something different. And there are some lessons to take away here. All kinds of people can have charisma. Hitler had charisma. Mussolini had charisma. Stalin had charisma. But Martin Luther King and Gandhi had charisma. So there's always charisma, but different than that, there's greatness. And I had been in the presence of that greatness, and I have to say there may have been one other time in my life, but I don't think it was the same kind of greatness that Cesar Chavez was. And the other lesson you really have to take away from this is when you get in an elevator, you really have to look around and see who's there. Because you might be in the presence of greatness and not know it, and you really have to look around and see who's there in the elevator with you. So thank you.